So let's see Spark streaming in action. So again, for this example, what we're going to do is listen to Twitter tweets in real time and keep track of the most popular hashtags that we encounter over a 5-minute sliding window. Now to do this, first we need to set up a developer account with Twitter so that we can actually connect our Spark streaming application to the Twitter API. And this doesn't take long, so all you need to do is go to apps.twitter.com, https apps.twitter.com, and you should see a screen like this. Go ahead and sign in with your Twitter account. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can just follow along and watch me. And I already have an app defined here for the work I've been doing, but you'll want to create a new app. And you can call it whatever you want. Spark, Scala, course, I don't know. And messing around with Spark streaming. And you need to put something in for the website. I happen to own one, so I'll put my website in there. Put whatever you want in there. Callback URL can be left empty. Read through the developer agreement. Make sure you don't object to anything, assuming you're cool with it. Hit I agree and create your Twitter application. All right, but we're not quite done yet. Now we need to click on keys and access tokens. These are the credentials that we need in order to actually connect. So let's click on that. And we want to create an access token as well as our consumer key. All right, so now we have all the information that we need. We have a consumer key and a consumer secret, and we have an access token and an access token secret. So these are the credentials you will need in order to connect to Twitter. So leave that information up where you can get at it easily. And if you go to the directory where you downloaded the course materials, for me that's download Spark Scala, you should find a twitter.txt file. And if you open that up, it should look a little something like this. So what you want to do is copy and paste the keys that you just got into this file. So for consumer key, for example, I would copy that, paste it next to that. Make sure there is one space between consumer key and the token itself, no extra spaces at the end or anything. You want to keep on doing this for the other credentials. Of course, yours will be different, and don't try using mine because I'm going to delete this account when I'm done. Access token. This is a longer one, has a dash in it, so copying it is a little bit trickier, but I'm sure you can handle it. And the access token secret. So you should end up with a file that looks like this. Make sure that you have a return at the end of that final line, and make sure there's no extra spaces, no extra returns or anything like that that might mess up this file. Once you're happy with it, save it. And it should look like that, of course, with your own tokens. All right, now we need to take that file and copy it into your course folder. I've already done that with my own tokens here. So at this point in the course, your Spark Scala folder should look something like this. And now we can just go ahead and take a look at our script. So let's spark up the Scala IDE. So next thing we need to do is import some libraries for Scala and Spark that will let it actually talk to Twitter. Now if you were using something before Spark 2.0, that capability is just built into Spark itself, but they actually removed it in Spark 2.0. So if you are using Spark 2.0 or newer, you have to do this next step first. So go over to the Spark Scala course project in the IDE, right click on it and click on Properties and click on Java Build Path. What we're going to do is hit Add External Jars, and I've provided the jars you need as part of the course materials. So if you go to where you downloaded the course materials, for me that's the Spark Scala folder in my Downloads folder, you should see these 3 jars. There's dstream Twitter, Twitter for JCore, and Twitter for JStream. And these are the libraries you need in order to get Spark streaming to talk to Twitter. So go ahead and select all of those and hit Open, and hit OK. And now we can import the script itself. So click on the package there, right click, import from the file system. Again, we'll choose the directory we downloaded the course materials into, and we want to import the popular hashtags.scala file. All right, go ahead and open that up and we'll take a look at it. So let's take a look at what's going on in here. We reviewed a lot of this in the slides, so we'll just go over it quickly again. Basically, we're importing all the stuff we need, including a bunch of Spark streaming classes and the Spark streaming Twitter example as well. So that allows us to connect to Twitter and use Twitter as a Spark streaming receiver. All right, we made a little Little function here to set the log level to error level, and here is where we actually load that twitter.txt file that you just created. And we parse it out one line at a time, split it based on that space character, and just set system properties based on those settings. So assuming you formatted that file correctly, that should set up all the system properties needed to actually connect to Twitter successfully. So that's the first thing we do in our main function. We set up those credentials for Twitter, and then we get into the meat of Spark streaming itself. So note here, we are creating a streaming context as opposed to just a plain old Spark context. And we are setting this up to run locally on every core. We're calling it popular hashtags, and this third parameter indicates the batch size. So we're going to say we want to get information to process every second, and we're going to process information 1 second at a time. Okay, moving on. We'll call the Twitter utils class to actually create a receiver that listens to a stream of tweets. So that's what Twitter utils create stream does, given our streaming context. And we now have a dstream called tweets that we can work with. All right, next thing we need to do is extract the actual text from each tweet as it comes in, and we don't want all the other information that comes along with each tweet, like who said it or where it was sent from and all that garbage. So we just do a simple map here that gives us back yet another dstream. So look at It's important to note that we're actually operating on D streams here. This is on top of an RDD. So we're actually saying we want you to do this mapping of extracting the text from each tweet on every single bit of information that comes in continuously. All right, so we're not dealing with individual little RDDs here. We're dealing with the D stream as a whole, which is kind of cool. And keeping on with that, we're going to apply a flat map to that to actually bust those tweets out into individual words broken up by spaces. Obviously, there's more robust ways of doing that, but that will meet our purposes for now. And we're still dealing with D streams at this point. So at this point, we have a D stream of strings. That's just a big old bag of words. Next thing we want to do is filter out anything that's not a hashtag. So with this little function here, we're going to say unless an individual word starts with a pound character, we're going to throw it away from our filter function. So we're applying filter to our D stream now, and the resulting D stream is now just a D stream of all the hashtags that have come in. All right, now we're going to transform that. We're going to do our little trick of transforming that to a key value pair where the value is 1, so we can do a reduce operation to count them all up. So now we have hashtag key values where we have a D stream of key value pairs of individual hashtags in the number 1, and then reduce by key and window will add them all up. So what we're saying here, this deserves a little bit more explanation. This is kind of the meat of Spark streaming here and what we're doing. By taking that D stream and calling reduce by key and window, we're saying we want to combine together all of the information in that D stream over a sliding window. And in this case, it's a sliding window of 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. And we're going to slide the window every 1 second. So every 1 second, we're going to look back 5 minutes and return the result of all of the summed up hashtags for each hashtag. So we have a pretty standard reduction function here. We're saying given two values, we combine them together by adding them. And reduce by key and window optionally takes a second function for how to remove something from it. So we also pass that in as well. If you want to remove y from x, we just say x minus y. You don't have to do that, but it does allow Spark to optimize things a little bit better, because with that sliding window, sometimes we have to take stuff out as well as add stuff in. Okay, so at this point we have a hashtag counts, and we're still dealing with the D stream here. That maps hashtags to their count over a sliding 5-minute window that's updated every 1 second. All right, so that's how Spark streaming works. Finally, we'll call transform on that to retrieve a D stream. That just sorts the results, so we end up with the most popular hashtags on front and print out the top 10 results. That's all that print does. All right, we set a checkpoint directory. This is important for actually being able to restart the job if it fails. And we start it and wait for it to terminate. So let's see if it works. I already created a run configuration for it, so there's nothing special about it. We just called it popular hashtags, put in the main class name here, and we can run it. And I don't have any control over what people write on Twitter, so there could be some naughty words here, just to warn you. So as the time of I'm writing this course, the Republican National Convention is going on, so we're seeing a bunch of political stuff go by, but actually it's getting drowned out pretty quickly by some other stuff. Let's blow this up a little bit. So this is pretty awesome. Like, what I'm seeing here is a running total of the most popular hashtags over the last 5 minutes. Now, I haven't actually run this for 5 minutes yet, so I'm just kind of like aggregating results as I go at this point. But right now, something's going on with MTV apparently, and MTV Hottest seems to be trending as a very popular hashtag right now. Welcome GOT7 to Thailand. I don't know, some gaming thing, I guess. I'm just not with the times these days. And you can see things are really starting to stabilize. MTV Hottest is in the clear lead right now. If you're running this at home, be interesting to see what else you're seeing. I'm sure it's completely different. Another thing that I always find fascinating too is that English isn't as predominant as you might think, right? I mean, I know I have an international audience here, so maybe it's not a surprise, but in a kind of US-centric view that we tend to let ourselves be immersed in here in the United States, that can come as a little bit of a awakening. I mean, there's definitely languages I don't even recognize here. What is that? I think that's Korean, but I'm not even sure, to be honest. But it's pretty cool. You know, I mean, Twitter is a global community, and streaming popular hashtags won't necessarily give you results that are in English. And hopefully, whatever that says in whatever language it is nothing offensive. And there you have it. But that's pretty awesome, isn't it? I mean, I could let this run all day, literally. And it would just keep giving me a running total of the hottest hashtags in the past 5 minutes. So that's pretty cool stuff. And if I didn't want to print it, I could like store it out to a database, send it to some other service, send it to a website. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. So that's Spark Streaming for you. It's pretty powerful stuff, and I can get pretty excited about it. Good application of Spark. So, you know, if you are dealing with continuous streams of data as opposed to dealing with batches of data, you know, at the end of the day or whatnot, Spark Streaming could be for you. You might want to learn more about it. All right, with that, let's move on and talk about GraphX. Just hit terminate here when you're done, and we can close out of it. So that's Spark Streaming in action with a pretty fun example, keeping track of the hottest hashtags in real time from Twitter. So if you want to get your hands on and get down and dirty and get some more practice with Spark Streaming, I encourage you to fiddle with that script and make it do something else. So here's a couple of ideas for you. What if you kept track of the most popular word tweeted in general? Don't just look at the hashtags, look at everything. That's a pretty simple modification to make and give you some confidence in just getting in there and making some changes. After that, try something a little bit more challenging. Why don't you try to keep track of the average length of a tweet that comes through, or the most popular tweet length. A little bit simpler there. Also, a little exercise you can do with the same kind of framework there. Lots of things you can do with tweets there. So get in there and get creative and actually make some changes to that script and make it do something interesting and learn something new about what people are tweeting about. So go have at it, have some fun with it, and I'll see you in the next lecture.